Hello and welcome to Zerocarbonista Series 7, Don't Panic. I'm Ian Collins, and this is your number one go-to environment-based podcast. If it's green, it's in. And we are recording this like a day later than normal. That's because we have a sickly child on our hands, Dale. You've been knocked sideways by that flu malarkey.
I've been sleeping. But for anybody that saw our message yesterday on Instagram that the podcast was cancelled this week, the good news is it isn't. Because
That was just fake news.
It's just fake news. I don't know what's up with my people sometimes.
Yeah, who put that out there? I think we need to have a word in an alleyway, Dale.
But last week we said, don't panic unless you live in Greenland. I think this week's theme should be don't panic unless you live in reform.
Yeah, and we'll come to reform in just a bit because there's quite a lot to say about them, actually. They've had a bit of an eventful week. But are they good headlines or bad headlines? Well, we should mention a little bit about Forest Green just briefly. 2-0 victory, still riding high, Dale.
Yeah, FA Trophy, away to Ebbsfleet. I was there, actually, despite the man flu or whatever it is. And it was just a fab game. Our new striker was cup tied, so he couldn't play. And Ebbsfleet, fair play, they were really rather good and ran us very close. In the end, the scoreline, I would say, flattered us. They made some brilliant opportunities, and our keeper kept us in the game until we could manage to score and win it.
I didn't realise you were at Ebbsfleet. Okay, I mean, that's literally 20 minutes from me. I could have.
Is it?
Yeah.
Damn.
Come and supported them. Well, not Ebbsfleet, obviously. Sorry. That would have been shocking, wouldn't it? It's a democracy, Dale. I was just thinking, because you had a dose of flu last week, and then it kind of sort of did that crazy thing that colds and stuff do. It slightly disappears, and you go, I'm on the road. And then, wham, it comes back again. What we do know from doing this podcast for the last few years is that your diary is invariably chocker. So the cancellation flurry must have been massive this week.
Yeah, but I've been to quite a few things. It's a lovely feeling, actually. It's almost addictive. I'm finding it hard to stop. No cancelling things and saying, no, that. I'm not coming. I'm not speaking. I'm not doing that. I won't be there. It's tempting to live my life that way now. So if I don't appear next week, it'll be because I took that plunge.
And retired.
Not exactly retired, but
we could still do a podcast from the Bahamas, couldn't we? I mean, you can get Wi-Fi over there when you're in your hammock.
Oh, Monaco looks nice, particularly if you want to dodge a bit of tax.
Yeah, you're the last person I can imagine in Monaco, Dale.
Yeah, like Jim Ratcliffe. I just want to say that again. He piped up this week from Monaco, a tax haven, in case anybody missed that point. Yeah. He's made billions in the fossil fuel industry, and he piped up to basically oppose net zero, moves to net zero and green stuff. He's like, we need fossil fuels. Well, yes, Jim, you need fossil fuels. The rest of us, we've got a better alternative.
What's Jim's credentials in this area?
Sweet affair, I think.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's kind of interesting how the loud voices, when you drill down, no pun, you realise that they know, well, as my old nan would have said, all.
Yeah. Obviously, he's, what would you call it? He's invested in the other side, the industry that we're leaving behind. So he knows plenty about that. There's a lot of money to be made in fossil fuels if you're him. That's his credentials.
Yeah. Before we get on to reform, let's just go across the pond to Elon Musk, because he's had a bit of a bizarre week. He seems to, I think he kind of sees himself as the unofficial prime minister of this country. He's got a lot to say about what's going on.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, can't keep his nose out, can he? And his money and his tech.
Yeah. And his AI as well, where he's in trouble with his Grok platform.
Yeah. I think of that as tech, but yeah.
Yeah. That is tech. Yes, you're absolutely right. I don't know why I carried that on, really. But it does seem to be that particular place where Ofcom are investigating, and there's news that the government, if X and Musk don't play ball, the government could legally shut them down.
Yeah, they're threatening it. Malaysia's already done it. They don't mess about over there.
No.
They just did it. All right. We're talking about it. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say?
I mean, is it what about the free speech thing? Because the one thing Musk hates is regulation. I mean, it's such a filthy word to him. He can't get his head around the idea that there might be some things in life that require a bit of a law, like, there's a limit on how fast you can travel. You can't just kill strangers in public. These are all laws that are there for good reason. Not exploiting young girls in particular by making fake photographs on their AI platform is one that applies in this country.
Yeah, that's right. It's not about free speech. For one thing, nobody's speaking.
Yeah.
In these
that's
images.
Very true. Yeah, there's the irony. There is no speaking.
What's that all about? Yeah.
Just weirdos making odd photographs of strangers.
Yes.
Which in itself is a bit. I'm not blaming Musk for that, but he is essentially publishing those images, and he's not the only one, of course, in the AI world. But he denies any responsibility for that, essentially,
or for anything else that gets said on X.
Yeah. Nothing, which is something you can't do in newspapers, of course. You can't say, "Oh, no, we didn't, nothing to do with us." But you publish it. The Daily Telegraph is a good case in point, which brings us to the Ed Miliband story, because have they been monkeying around with, twisting news on Ed Miliband? Is that the headline?
Well, I think they always do that. Just to go back to the end of the last story, I said a few months ago on Newsnight, was it Newsnight? Anyway, who knows, who cares? That actually the answer to all of these problems across all of these social media platforms is to make them responsible for their content, like newspapers are, as you pointed out. Just do that. Just make them responsible. They'll soon sort it out. Yeah, Telegraph. I mean, they run a series of stories. They never stop. He gets more headlines from the Telegraph than I do, so I'm slightly jealous, maybe. Not really. But he does. He's in their crosshairs. Yeah, and I think the one you're referring to, because there have been so many, there was another one today, there was another one yesterday. The one you're referring to is where they complain. Somebody put out a report basically and said, we won't hit our net zero target for, I don't know, maybe another 10 years after 2030. Yeah. And the Telegraph are complaining. And I'm like, hang on a minute, guys. You have been banging on about how we're moving too fast and you want us to slow down. And now somebody says we are slowing down and you're like, Ed Miliband's a failure.
Yeah, that seemed to be the gist of it, didn't it? That it's going too slow. I think the narrative they were trying to create is that much the same kind of nonsense that gets said about EVs is that it's slowing down because it's not needed or it doesn't work.
Well, no, I don't think they were saying that.
But it doesn't that underpin their kind of their desire to say this.
I didn't read that into it, but then, I didn't read far past the headline. I think somebody just says it's going to take longer than Ed thinks, and they're like, it's going too slowly now.
Yeah.
And then last week they were like something similar about the amount of green energy coming on the grid. And Ed's team said, well, wait until next week, which is where we are now, until you see what we announce in the latest CFD round called AR7. And they obviously had inside knowledge. And today it comes out, and they've announced an enormous contract, around 8 gigs of offshore wind, I think it is. Excuse me. And guess who's complaining? It's the Telegraph. Last week they're complaining there's not enough going to be built. This week they're complaining too much has been contracted.
When you date someone who is just, looking back on it, completely freaking unreasonable at every level. No matter what you say, they go that way. You think you say something that they're going to concur with, they go that way. And the Daily Telegraph is like the unreasonable relationship. Whatever is said, they will essentially just turn the whole freaking thing against you.
Yeah, I mean, Ed's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't in the eyes of the Telegraph. But that's okay, because, they're not exactly the arbiter of fact and truth and merit in their news reporting. They've got an axe to grind. It's a very right-wing axe, very anti-net zero one. And we all know that. So, hey-ho.
Well, I mean, things going down. I mean, circulation, I think, would be one of the Daily Telegraph, but I've not seen that on their front pages.
Yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it?
Maybe
Daily Telegraph fails.
Yes.
I mean, great headline.
It's not just green energy, it's us as well.
We'll stick that on Babelfish when we get going with our next headline.
Absolutely. Here's a question from Jay Burt on email. Dale, today I switched to Eco Talk. Can't wait to get going. I run my business as sustainably as I can, including energy, transport, and food. But the one thing left is my internet provider. This got me thinking, are you going to start a broadband company, maybe EcoNet or EcoFiber? It's a good question. That must have come up under any other business at some meeting, Dale.
Yeah, maybe so. Look, that's fabulous. Anyway, Jay, thanks for joining us. And the answer is yes. I'm not sure we'll start a separate business. We're looking now to see if we can add broadband. We can. It's a matter of how to go about it, how long it's going to take, and that kind of stuff. But I think broadband won't be any more difficult than what we're doing with mobile. And well, the answer is yes, coming soon. We've got eSIMs coming later this month as well. And we've
you
got
mentioned that.
Yeah, and a B2B for mobile phones as well. Jargon, a business offer. So at the moment, we're only in domestic, single SIMs for people. But we've got a business offer coming soon.
Nice.
Also. And we've got Beavers coming soon. I know I say this all the time, but it could only be a matter of weeks now before the Beavers arrive in East Sussex.
Yeah. I think it's anywhere near you. London.
Got any trees in your garden?
Boys? Well, we talked about this many times on the podcast, but this is now is literally happening, and you're talking about a couple of weeks, you say?
Yeah, any week now it's going to happen. I'll find out more tomorrow night, actually. Got a meeting with a beaver man down the pub. Sounds funny,
got a meeting with a beaver. That would be great, because only they really know, don't they? Are you going to be there for the release or the...
Oh, I think so. I think I'm going to have to be. This has been such a big deal. I've wanted us to do this for a couple of years, and we've gone by the book. And I think I mentioned in a previous episode, we've got a containment area. We've got a fence like it's something straight out of Jurassic Park.
Wow.
It's beaver proof.
Yeah. Well, you say that. These things can do all sorts with those gnashers.
Yeah.
No messing. We mentioned reform at the very beginning. I think you wanted to bring this back up. They've got a new member and a fairly high-profile one in Nadhim Zahawi, the former Conservative Chancellor, although he was only there for about 8 weeks, it should be said.
I thought you were going to say Chancellor, the former Conservative Chancellor, because that would work really rather well. Yeah. I mean, this is a man that, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was recent, couple of years. He called Farage a Nazi. He likened him to Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, and he said he would be afraid to live in a country run by Farage, right? This wasn't that long ago. He also got caught claiming MP's expenses to keep his horses warm on his country estate. And he said,
Dale, have some sympathy.
That was obviously a mistake. And he said he would pay it back. But worse, he got caught by Sunak, his boss, for not telling him the whole story about his tax affairs.
That's right. Yeah.
He was being pursued for a £5 million unpaid tax bill. It's not a little thing. This is not like, 500 quid.
Wasn't
£5
a
million
quid.
Ticket. £5 million quid. So he lost his job as Chancellor. And now just last week, wasn't it? Or a few days ago, joined Reform. He's joined the party of the Nazi, whose country he said he would be afraid to live in. He's now not afraid to live in his party. It gets even more colourful because the Tories are saying he asked for a peerage, and when he was refused, he left and joined Reform. What kind of guy is this?
Yeah. Well, let me just put I've dug it out, the old Reform hat on, Dale. And here's the answer. Right. Okay. He said this stuff like 10, 11 years ago. When he was in government, and you have to say stuff like that when you're the opposition.
Was it 10 or 11 years ago?
I think 20. I think that particular tweet was 2015 when he said, "I'm British born, Mr. Farage. I'm as British as you are. I'm not British born, but I'm as British as you are. Your comments are offensive and racist. I'd be frightened to live in a country run by you." Some have said, well, he's just got to say stuff like that when he's the chairman of the Tory party or whatever it was.
But the thing is, if he's just got to say stuff and he'll say stuff he doesn't mean, how can we ever trust him? Well, because he's in Reform now. And you can trust Reform, Dale. I've still got the hat on. It's because he's reformed.
Well, I think the clue is in the name, isn't it?
He's reformed.
Yeah. Well, their big problem now, of course, is that if they have too many Tories, this is the party that, their party began in many respects, or it's certainly become a party that exists in no small part because they are not the Tories. They oppose the Tories. The Tories don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do conservatism. But if you come to Reform, we do. Well, if you've got 21 former MPs, and two of them are still MPs. Then you've got hundreds of councillors who've left the Tory party, as did Mr. Farage and others to begin it. If you start to look like the Tory party, then isn't your entire unique selling point slightly compromised? That seems to be the allegation which all sides are refuting.
Well, I think I think it's part of the problem because they're getting basically the third-rate Tories are leaving to join the Reform Party. The people that put their own self-interest above national interest, the interests of the country and stuff like that, they don't see prospect of getting elected with the Tories, so they jump to the next nearest thing, which is reform. These are shallow, self-interested people. I just want to say that. But the public are seeing through it because Reform are bombing in the polls. They've lost 25% of their support in the last 4 months, according to a Sky YouGov poll that came out yesterday, I think it was, down from 32% to 26%, I think it is. And that's quite remarkable. And, there's the ever-present theme of racism. There's the evictions from the party. Was it 9 members of Kent County Council within weeks or months anyway of winning that council and taking control? They sacked 9 elected
or suspended,
members.
Yeah, and then I think some
they kicked them out of the party. Yeah. And then they broke their tax pledges last week. They put council tax up, having promised to put them down. They haven't saved any money, which they promised they would do. They got these third-rate Tories continuing to join them. And this man, Zahawi or whatever it is, I mean, he's got such a terrible backstory. You got to think he's doing them more harm than good, right? That is not a high profile. That is not a defection to celebrate. I don't think anyway. Anyway, I think the public's seen through it. And we're years away from a general election. I thought that reality would bite before the general election. It would appear like it's doing it now. Maybe even in time to affect the outcome in May. We'll see.
You're very cynical, Dale. I would suggest it's looking as if you're not, and maybe this is a stretch, but it's looking as if you're not going to vote reform at the next election. I'm getting that sense that this might not be the party for you. What happened to you, Dale Vince?
I don't think I've ever been a reform-leaning voter, even before there was a reform. By the way, in 2015, was there a reform party?
No, it was the Brexit party, wasn't it? Although because it was UKIP and then Brexit, but the sort of the details suggest they're not all, they're not just rebranded names; they're different parties. But you could decide for yourself.
Led by the same man.
Yeah. Although UKIP do still exist. I think they got no votes at the general election. Someone's going to say I'm libeling them there, but they probably got 1 or 2. But it was pretty.
There's probably maybe there's nobody there to say that anymore.
That's yes, they've got.
He's waiting to be struck off at somebody's house.
Yeah, you might be right. If only we had politicians like they have in the United States, Dale, like Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is the man in charge of America's health, and he is the gift that keeps on giving, because you can criticize Donald Trump and you can criticize some of the decisions of Donald Trump, but JFK Jr. only has the nation's health and well-being at the forefront of his mind, Dale. The man's like Jesus.
He's like Jesus. I'm going to stop there. But look, it's interesting because he's put out a report or a policy. It's basically an eating guide for Americans, telling them what they should and what they shouldn't eat. And most people seem to have reacted negatively to this. And I'm going to surprise you here and tell you that I see it differently. Okay. Because although the report does encourage the eating of meat and lard, Jesus, apart from that, it says all the right things, particularly on processed food. It says processed food is killing us. Sugar is a poison. Salt, fat, and sugar, the core ingredients of processed food and fast food. His report says don't eat them. Yeah. Eat fresh vegetables and fruit and stuff like that, and a bit of raw meat and some tallow or whatever it is. I don't know. But that's the tip of an otherwise very good iceberg. And if we had health advice like that over here, it would be a massive improvement, actually.
It's interesting because it is an area, I don't know what his qualification is, but it's an area, in fairness to him, he's banged on about for absolutely years. Yeah. And it gets a bit conspiratorial when he gets into medicines and things like that. But nonetheless, anyway, put that aside. But the diet side of things, and he is in pretty good nick, this fella, by the way. He's about 175. And he's built like Schwarzenegger was when he was 45. He's doing all right in the fitness department, but yeah, I mean there are critics of Trump that are tacit, supporters, or certainly tacitly understanding of his position on diets.
Yeah, I mean, he's all good about fruit and veg and processed food. The crossover point comes at oils. He says olive oils are good. Agree with that, but don't eat seed oils. I disagree with that. And then he moves into eat lard instead and carry on eating red meat. So there are bits that are, I think, just wrong, but there's a whole bunch of it that is just right.
Here's a headline, Dale. Net zero means higher taxes. Not that net zero. The other one. Can you explain?
No. How many net zeros are there?
Well, it was an awkward truth or reform as forecasts show that net migration... I don't know if I should read all this. Did they get the wrong net zero or something?
I have no idea, honestly.
Awkward truth for reform as Should we leave that?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I know what it is. We are fast approaching net zero immigration. We are. And it could happen like imminently. And it's quite sweet, quite ironic, because it comes with bad news attached, which is that this is going to have a big economic impact and we'll all be paying more tax because there's less people immigrating into our country. So it's one of those, be careful what you wish for things. It's another right-wing policy, something that Farage has banged on for a long time, Tories as well, like Brexit, that turned out to be actually bad for us.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, it's going to be interesting, that, isn't it? I was reading a piece on exactly this, that, people talk about the Boris wave of immigration. But there was some sense, actually, in what he was trying to do. We had nobody working in any care homes, nobody working in all these crucial jobs. It had to be opened up because if you've got nobody doing it, what the hell are you meant to do? What is the response? I'm not really supporting Johnson on that, but the reality is where reality collides on these kind of issues with people's ideology.
But look, Johnson shut immigration down first. He was a leading advocate for Brexit, which is all about immigration, not completely, but primarily. It was led by immigration. As soon as we left the EU, we had back control of immigration. What did we do? We threw the doors open, but not to Europe. So we got a different kind of people and more people coming. So Johnson wasn't really curing a genuine issue. He didn't even cure it. He got it all kinds of wrong. That was classic Johnson. But it was a problem of his own making, of Farage's own making. It's more like the Farage wave, in my opinion, than the Boris one.
Do you think
the real fingerprints on this belong to Farage?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because you obviously criticise reform. You're not a fan of reform, although you haven't got any personal axe to grind with Nigel or Richard, and you've met both and had very amicable conversations and even a few laughs in there as well. But it is about personalities because they announced their mayoral candidate this week.
Jesus.
Now, they thought they'd hit the bullseye here because female candidate, Muslim candidate, taking on a Muslim candidate in Sadiq Khan, that this is the perfect cocktail. She's already a councillor in Westminster. This is the person that's going to beat Sadiq Khan. Her name is Layla Cunningham. What could go wrong, Dale?
The problem I have with it is that I think it was just last week, she made a major speech, which Farage endorses the position on. She said that crime is out of control in London, that there's a crime wave, it's a lawless city, the cops have given up, and masked gangs are roaming the street. These are her actual words.
They're everywhere.
Days later, the stats came out, and London hasn't been safer for more than a decade. Crime is on the floor. So she's completely disconnected from reality. This is gaslighting of the type that populists like Farage and Reform do. They make us think the place we live in is shit, that there's problems and only they can solve them. The truth is a very long way away from that.
Yeah, I mean, that thing of crime where, the constant talk, I know it probably depends what your own experience and where you live, the constant talk of, crime is through the roof and the gangs that you mentioned. And when polls come out and show that crime has gone down, apparently.
Crime's actually gone down. And when we did our gigapoll last summer, we asked people about this. This is the poll of 50,000 people, something like 80 questions deep. It was a massive poll, which is why we called it the gigapoll. Right? I don't want to feel like Trump when I say that. There's never been a bigger, more beautiful poll. But this is it. Poll. And we asked the question, and what came back was that people overwhelmingly feel safe in their own neighborhoods. They embrace the multicultural nature of some parts of Britain, because as we said, some are like 99.7% white, like Robert Jenrick's constituency. We talked about that before. But people don't recognise the Britain that Reform are painting the picture of, and the Tories to a lesser degree. They just don't recognise it, and that's really good news.
And let's finish with a question, Dale. This comes from Annie Taylor on Facebook. Reference Nigel Farage and what she describes as his list of VIP freebies. She says, isn't it about time MPs were required to sit for a minimum number of debates in the Houses of Parliament and take part in a minimum number of votes? These MPs, like Farage, who get elected, then basically turn their backs on their constituencies, need to be taught to respect the people who voted them into power. I also think the situation with MPs hosting their own programmes or holding shares in TV stations, like Farage does with GB News, should be regarded as a conflict of interest. Surely it should be regarded as undue influence. Well, I mean, there's a couple of ways of looking at that. Interesting, we mentioned America. In America, you can't have a second job if you're working there as a senator or in Congress. You think of all places where you could have 1,000 jobs. It might be the States. You can't.
Yeah.
You can have as many as you like over here.
So there's nothing to disagree with in that question. You remind me that Keir Starmer said before the election that he would bring in a rule that MPs could not have another job, that an MP's job was a full-time job and he would make it so. He hasn't done it yet, but let's say he's been busy and that's fine. I saw recently that Farage is earning a shed load of money going abroad, giving talks and stuff like that, rarely seen in his constituency. Somebody asked the question, how do we get to see more of him? I offer this advice, pay him. Pay him to come and speak in your constituency. Then he'll be there.
Wouldn't that be something if you had to get paid to speak in your own constituency?
It would absolutely work.
Yeah. We've done a fundraiser, Nudge. We've got the money. My mate Alf will give it to your fella in the back. Love it. Dale, we've hit the clock.
Well, that's nice.
That is nice. You can go and lay down now and have another sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. You can, of course, follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/Dale Vince, Facebook and Instagram, and on TikTok too.
Oh, you said it. Damn.
Yeah.